All right, let's talk ratchets. So this is one of the Craftsman V series, and that's what I want to talk about today. I know normally I'm doing car stuff, but for some reason everyone's doing videos on, tools and ratchets and that kind of stuff. And so I thought, well, why don't I do one on the ratchets that I've got and what I think about them? So if you want to watch that, continue watching. If you don't, then don't watch one of the other videos. Anyway, so Craftsman V series. Just so you know, just to be perfectly clear, is that I was raised in kind of a Craftsman house. My dad, all he had were these old Craftsman ratchets. Like this one was my dad's, from the 60s, I think, early 70s. And then as I grew up, I got my own ratchets. This one's from the 90s, I think. So mostly just old Craftsman ratchets. I really like them. Are they the best ratchets? No, but I think, they do the job real well. They're durable. I mean, I put a breaker bar on this one and, broken things loose and never had a problem with it. And in the time I did break a ratchet, I just walked it into, I think it was Osh at the time, because that's where they sold them in my town, and gave them the old one. They gave me a new one. So super easy. So I've never had a problem. So most of the time I've gotten Craftsman stuff. The problem is the newer Craftsman stuff that they were kind of making out of China just wasn't good. And at that time I wasn't buying ratchets anyway because I still had my old ones. Didn't have to worry about it. So when the V series, I heard about the V series and I'm like, ooh, I want to check that out. So I watched a bunch of videos on it. Project Farm does a really great one on ratchets. And he did a thing on the V series ratchet, or he was one of the ratchets that they reviewed. And for me, the thing that I like most about ratchets, or that I look for in a ratchet, is, well, here, let me show you what I got. Because I got the one, I really liked it. So I went out and picked up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more, or 5 total. And I gotta say, I really like them. The thing that I look for in a ratchet is arc swing. That's most important to me above everything else. Is can I get into a tight spot, and at what point after it clicks does it engage? Like this here, it's like, that's how far before it engages. Give you an idea, one of the older ones, that's how far before it engages. Click. That's how far it goes before it engages. So arc swing is important. And when I saw the videos and they did the arc swing on these Craftsman V series, they were like at the top. So that's a plus for me. Other is durability. Can I really abuse these things and are they going to survive? And these Craftsman ratchets are always up there on durability as well. What they didn't do well on, and I have to agree, is they are a bit chunky. Now, the V series aren't too bad this way. They're actually pretty narrow this way, but back and forth, that's pretty chunky. I mean, to give you an idea, here's an old Husky ratchet, which I like this one too. Oh, hold on. There. See? Yeah, so they're pretty chunky this way. So not a huge fan of that. And then after that is back drag. Now, the back drag on these, people report and they say that they're horrifically bad. Now, when I got them, I have to admit they were horrifically bad. They really were. But what I did was I took it, got myself a jar, took the ratchet, stuck it inside the jar, put a bunch of oil in there, and then let it sit for like a day. Then I took it, put an extension on it, put this side of my drill, and spun it on low. Flip it, spin it on low. And that made all the difference. I mean, this particular ratchet, I gotta tell you, when I first got it, it would go this far before it would click. Now, it's much, much, much better. This stubby here, it would go like this far. I'm not kidding. Before it would start to ratchet. And now is that great? No. But that's not bad. It's actually pretty smooth. So it's about 60% better than where it was. And that's my thing, is like, how good does it have to be? Like, when did back drag become the best thing that, that defines a ratchet? Because I've used this to pull out spark plugs the other day, and I got to the point where I was like, and got the spark plug all the way out without having to apply any pressure to allow it to ratchet. So the back drag on this is better than some. Now it's better than some. When I first got it, it definitely wasn't. It's better than some, but worse than others. But how good does it need to be in order to be considered a good ratchet? So for me, back drag's important, but I put that third behind arc swing, you know, when does it engage, and durability. How strong is it? And these things are tanks. But Craftsman ratchets always been tanks, except for, well, that's not true. The old Craftsman ratchets were always tanks, and from what I understand, these new V series are, and it's kind of a bummer they're not selling them anymore, because my only concern is is that after I got them off of eBay, if they do break, they're going to replace them with something like this. Now this is just a 120 tooth ratchet, which is okay, but I mean, look, so it clicks, and then that's how far before it engages. So 120 tooth, or 122 positions, sorry, and it takes a bit. Actually, let me show you, give you an idea. So here's the Husky, which I like this Husky. So let's see. So it clicks there, right? And then that's how far before it engages and starts to turn. That's how far. All right. This, click, it's almost halfway before it actually engages. That's how far. Now the new V series, oh, right there. Like hardly moves at all before it engages. So I really like, so that's what I like about the V series. So for me, getting them on eBay for, I think this one was like $15, which is really cool, plus shipping, you know, or $35 or $38, somewhere around there. I think it's a good deal. I think that's a solid deal. My only worry is, once again, that if I break it, then they're gonna replace it with something else that I'm not a huge fan of. But my hope is that they'll last long enough to where at some point, if they do break, you know, years down the line, that their ratchets will be much better anyway. Because that's actually how I got this one here, is I had one of the old Craftsman, one of these. See, I had a bunch of these. And it started slipping. And so I greased it up, got it all cleaned up and everything, and it still would slip just because the gears were starting to get, the teeth were starting to get too worn. So all I did was go on the Craftsman website, fill out a form, snapped a picture, and they sent me this one within, it was like 3 days later. But, you know, once again, it's not a bad ratchet. I mean, listen, the back drag on this is really smooth. It's actually really smooth. But the engage, I mean, the arc swing is going to be okay, I guess, and really not going to be that great. So I'm not a huge fan of that. And it's also a bit chunky, you know. Now, I understand that the overdrive, which I actually had some overdrive, but I got rid of them, I sold them, are better than these 120 tooth ratchets. But still, I don't know, they're still not quite up to standard as these V series, which I really like the V series. Once again, the back drag was bad, but you just let it sit in some oil, spin it for a while, and it's not bad at all. It's pretty smooth. So that's my take. And as I said, I've got other ratchets. You know, like I picked up this Icon. I've got this old Armstrong. Here's a Matco. I'm not sure what this is. I got it at a garage sale and it was all frozen up and ruined, but I took it apart and cleaned it up and it works pretty good. So it's not bad. It's backwards though, which is kind of weird. You know, you turn it this way, but anyway, it's backwards. Not sure what the deal was with that. And I like the Icon a lot. Like, it's got the back drag on that's really good, but I don't like how floppy this is. You know, like if you put a socket on there and then shake it even a little bit, it's gonna flop down. Got this old Craftsman. It takes a bit for it to do it. Now it's got those positions there. But even with this, of course it's a smaller ratchet, I gotta get I'm thinking on getting a 1/2 inch. There. Like I can get it to, it's not gonna flop around. So that's what I don't like about the Icon. Of course, this is Gen 1. I know Gen 2, it's got a lock in there, but I can't quite afford a Gen 2, so you know, what do you do? And this was 40% off, which is cool. So it was definitely worth it for 40% off. I don't like the switch. I don't like how big it is and how it kind of pops out. I like a switch that is kind of more recessed, so it doesn't get in the way. Like, I really like that. It's a good looking ratchet. I don't like how it's kind of just right out there so you can kind of get moved around. So I'm not a fan of that. I do like the grip on it. I'm not a fan of comfort grip. I always like these old grips, but they're a little, because you got that, they're a little uncomfortable. Just got this, you know, bar here, kind of sticks up. The newer ones, I've seen the comfort grip on these, and I don't like that at all because it's really short, like comes to here. This one here, it's also shorter, but my hand actually fits pretty good in it because, you know, it just goes all the way up to there. And then this knurling is where my fingers fit. So I like that okay. I'm not a fan of comfort grip. You know, I just don't like it. It's just not for me. So that's my takes on ratchets. That's my take on ratchets. That's what I think. So take from that what you want. I really like these V-Series. You can pick them up on eBay. You can get them for pretty cheap. I think they're definitely worth it. I think what I'm going to do is pick up a V-Series one of these, and then maybe I'll sell this on eBay to kind of offset the cost. I don't know, maybe I'll pick one up on eBay and see how it is, and then decide if I'm going to sell this one on eBay. I mean, because I've had this for a long time, and let me tell you, I've broken bolts with it. I have really beaten this up, but it is still in really great shape. No problems whatsoever. Doesn't skip. It's smooth. Back drag is actually really good on it. It's a good ratchet. So that's what I think. So if you agree with me, then put it down in the comments. Let me know. If you don't agree with me, put it down in the comments as well. Let me know what you think. And please subscribe so I can continue to make videos. All right. Thanks.